Morning program is sponsored by Cross Pens, the official writing instrument of the I Miss in the Morning program. And I have one of them in my greasy little hand here, Chuck, that actually has my. They're great pens, aren't they?
They're beautiful. They honestly are.
You know, they used to make those little skinny gold and silver pens that
fine.
You know, you got if you. Well, I never liked them. I thought they were good pens, but I was not what the I-Man wanted. I wanted a fat pen to put in my fat little hand to write stuff, you know. The national news sponsored by Arm & Hammer Advanced White Toothpaste. White teeth, one tube. They guarantee this, Chuck. Now, they put a little shade guide, you know, in the
miles outside of nowhere in the state of New Mexico. That was anywhere in the state of Iowa, where never have so few said so much about nothing to nobody. So, what do we learn from the great Iowa Republican presidential straw poll? Well, a couple of things, I guess, both obvious. That Junior Bush is indeed the front runner, and that Dan Quayle would owe brains to Congresswoman Mary Bono. Let's see if we can't get a message through to our boy Dan. You finished 8th in a field of 9 in the straw poll. You've raised less than Imus raised in 2 hours for charity. You've spent it down to where you couldn't buy an acre at the ranch. And despite your assertions to the contrary, you are not going to emerge from New Hampshire as the alternative to anything. Go home. You are defeated. That's D-F-E-E-T-E-D, defeated. You know what the weird thing is, though? I can't really tell who has the more, how to say this delicately, the more ice cream cone in the forehead eyes, Quayle or the front runner. I mean, I don't exactly think patent attorneys are waiting around on these two lads to make their law firm, if you know what I'm saying. This is what we've got in the Republican field. A guy who can't find Kosovo and a guy who couldn't spell it. Great. For the rest of these morons, we might as well just hand the presidency to Bill Bradley and be done with it. At least, if I might paraphrase myself, we won't have the lumberjack lad to kick around anymore. And that's a shame, because there's nobody more enjoyable to kick around than Lamar Alexander, or more richly deserving, I might add. At least this particular buffoon finally got the memo, J.D. People of America to Lamar. Consensus. We hate your guts. Die. A trifle harsh, perhaps, but given that Mr. Woodsy Owl campaigned in Iowa for like 6 years, it clearly reflects the national mood, which is essentially, go far away, never come back. Oh, I was glad to see Liddy Dole acquit herself relatively well. Everybody had been quite quick to dismiss Elizabeth because of organizational deficiencies, but now that's all changed with her third-place finish in the poll, and the Liddy campaign, otherwise known as the Blair Witch Project, seems back on track. In some, though, I-Man, the whole Iowa exercise, save for Lamar eating his gun, was pretty much a goof carnival, in my view, and meaningless. Oh, speaking of goof carnivals, the other weekend political event of note, the great Clinton established residency campaign. The first family looking for temporary housing in New York, until Hillary can get them all back into the White House, don't you know? How would you have liked to have been along for that? Bill, Hillary, Chelsea, and his mother-in-law, for God's sake, on the house hunt from hell, with residents where they were looking, pretty much saying, it seemed to me, why are you looking here? We don't have a whorehouse or a big house. Get out. At least when I moved, Dano, there weren't questions about whether Megan's Law would apply. Ouch. An uncompromising view through the Dick Scope today, by Dick Nixon, himself a troubled former president of the United States.
It is 26 after the hour here in the I Miss the Morning program. Whether Megan's Law would apply,
ugly, I believe, and unnecessary.
If Bill Clinton moves in your neighborhood?
I don't think that's right. I don't think it's going to apply.
And we're referring to the Elizabeth Dole campaign as the Blair Witch Project?
Know why they would do that sort of kind of thing. That's,
No, not they, Charles. You. You know, an interesting thing about chickens, I don't know, I was telling one of the guys here in the Aflac hay barn that I was, we were raised on a ranch, and I'm sure there were chickens there. I just can't remember specifically, but these are free-range chickens here. They just...
Group of fat, mouth-breathing trailer park twerps who simply refuse to accept that fact. Every year around this time, a wave of contemptibly stupid tragedy cases make the pilgrimage to Memphis for Elvis Week, to pay homage to a man who started out the embodiment of rebel cool in leather jeans and jacket and ended up a parody of a sweaty Vegas lounge act in a jewel-encrusted jumpsuit. When you consider what he'd become, the overdose was more like a mercy killing. And if you ask me, could very well have been a suicide. Because if I was faced with the stark realization that these reality-challenged lemmings made up the bulk of my fans, I couldn't get the needle into my arm fast enough. What is it with these people? I mean, even deadheads stopped following Garcia around once he croaked. You see these Elvis drones getting interviewed, standing by the gravesite? Well, I just wanted the king to know I was here for him. Well, you better wave your arms and talk louder, because it's a little tough for him to see and hear you under that 6 feet of dirt. I wonder what he'd be doing if he were still alive today. He'd probably be doing the same thing he was before he returned to sender. Drinking Jack, smoking crack, wrestling hookers, and eating fried peanut butter and banana sandwiches. So for all of you who are making the Hodge to Graceland to pay your respects, let me just say the following. Elvis is dead. When somebody refers to the late king of rock and roll, they don't mean he's running behind a few minutes. They mean he ain't gonna show. If Elvis were alive today, he'd have a liver like a watermelon and an ass the size of a piano. He might have kicked his drug and alcohol problem, but he would have fallen off the wagon when he found out his daughter had married Michael Jackson. At the rate he was going, if Elvis were alive today, he'd be appearing in Smokey Joe's Cafe. He'd be on the road opening for Delbert McClinton. He'd be doing infomercials for the Elvis Presley grilling machine. It's time for you goobers to stop the madness and put a down payment on a life, or at least devote your time and energy to a more worthwhile cause. Obsess over something that's a little more real, like Star Trek.
Imus in the Morning 2020 Sports rolls on.
Statutory set, the 2-0 on the way to Alex Rodriguez. Swing and a high fly ball belted. Where's that baby going? To the moon? Fly away. What a shot by A-Rod.
Stop yelling at me. Seattle swamps Toronto. Good morning. Mike Breenwood Sports. Dave Niehaus, the call. KIRO in Seattle. The Sportscast sponsored by General Nutrition Centers. Alex Rodriguez hits another home run. That's 5 straight games with a dinger as the Mariners edge the Blue Jays 7-5. But one of the big home runs last night, Edgardo Alfonso hit one in the 10th as the red-hot Mets nipped the Padres 4-3-10. Their rookie pitcher Octavio Dotel had a no-hitter through 6, but then gave up a 3-run homer to ruin it in the 7th. Also ruined the shutout, and at the time the lead. Young Dotel talked about the pitch that spoiled his chance at history.
I think he waiting 3-2. He waiting for my father, and he got it. So I can say nothing about that. He waiting for my father, and I just got it thrown right there. If you hit him, good, but if I got it out, that's good for me.
Can certainly understand where he's coming from there.
Here's the thing I'd like to point out. He speaks better English
than I do.
Than you do Spanish.
He probably speaks a better English than I do.
But this is in Cuba.
So I understand that, but so making fun of the guy is,
I'm not making fun of him.
It personally offends the I-man.
Oh, here we go. Bet stay tied with the Braves, who beat the Rockies 14-6. More controversy concerning the Ryder Cup. First it was should the players be paid, or at least paid more. Now it's the selection of the United States 12-man team. Captain Ben Crenshaw picked the final 2 players yesterday, Tom Lehman and Steve Pate. No Fred Couples. Couples snubbed big time. Crenshaw said it was tough.
To weigh this is just agonizing.
And he agonized for days, but Freddie Couples is not happy. Couples said Crenshaw and his cronies have lost touch with the game.
You know, they wouldn't know a golf ball if it hit him in the lip.
Yeah.
God almighty.
Oh, man, I can't believe you did that.
Holy
man, that's...
Couples said he's...
pull out a Reverend Hargis, would you? Honest
Good job,
to God.
Warner.
You're unbelievable.
Couples said he still hopes the U.S. wins, but he'll not watch now, and you can sense his bitterness and just that kind of alone.
A golf ball.
Watch your wallet.
And finally, a real inspiring story. Spurs forward Sean Elliott had his kidney transplant surgery yesterday. His brother is the one that donated. Doctor said the surgery went extremely well, but they'll still not know for a few months whether Elliott will be able to try and resume his basketball career. Elliott has vowed he will, and let's certainly hope the best for him.
What happens with the brother, Charles?
He goes through life with, a solo kidney. You can.
Oh, so you have two
Yeah.
of them then.
Oh,
Well, I don't know.
You have 5.
Well, how would I
Well,
know?
if he-
I figured he had one kidney.
Well, what would he do in that case? You can't live
Well, that's
without
why
a
I
kidney.
wonder. That's why I asked the question. I asked the
Gotta
question,
go
you
on
four-eyed
dialysis the rest of your life for crying out loud?
You're right.
I
don't need
know.
it. Here, take
Clearly,
it.
you don't know. You don't know.
Well, it's like,
You don't.
no, I've been, did you know people had two kidneys? Well, I guess
Everybody
you did.
They're called kidneys
Kidneys.
with an S.
Everybody knows that meteor showers are in the sky too.
No, but here's the thing. Well, like my friend Ann
Yes.
Mullen, she had a kidney
Right.
transplant,
Yes.
didn't she? Or
No,
was
it
it
was
something
kidney.
else?
No, it was
Oh,
Broken
kidney.
leg.
breasts.
So, so you can't. So both of hers must have been bad, right? I have to ask her. I guess both of them
Must
were
have
bad.
been. Or one was deteriorated to the point that it no longer could sustain its function.
Well, maybe it was a liver. Oh no, that would be you.
No, I mean, my liver's fine, all right, fuzzhead.
Let's hope Fred doesn't ever need a liver transplant.
So, well, okay. So, well, good for Sean Elliott, and that's very nice of his brother to kick in a liver.
Right.